is the after action report for the entire year of 2025 in all the shooting competitions that I participated in. This year, I crossed more than 90 miles of rugged terrain in competitive cross-country two-gun biathlon. These events took me from the hot and stifling East Texas jungles full of dense vegetation to the wide-open, barren wastelands of West Texas. I even crossed off a bucket list item and made it out to the Rocky Mountains. I got to vibe in the scenic, misty hills, wade across swamps and waterlogged roads, tackle steep hills, swim in a pond, bushwhack in the desert. All of this while carrying every piece of gear that I would ever need to shoot over 110 stages on my own two legs. Except for that one event where I was on my e-mountain bike, but more on this event later. This was without a doubt the hardest year of shooting competitions that I have ever completed, and it came with a lot of lessons learned, and I'm going to pass those lessons on to you in this video. Starting off with the evolution of my gear setup. If you're going to hike, jog, or run cross country for dozens of miles, how you set up your gear and its comfort levels could make or break your adventure, and even yourself. But first, this channel now has a really cool sponsor. It's so cool, in fact, that I probably can't even say their name out of fear of the YouTube algorithm striking my channel. But you guys are smart enough and know how to use Google, so check them out. You should be running and lifting often, but also shooting. No, you don't have to mag dump in the trash. In fact, you probably shouldn't. Low round count events like what I shoot are easy on the wallet, and so is this awesome channel sponsor. Just set up your monthly or quarterly ammo goals and walk away. You'll build a stockpile of freedom seeds, and when you're ready, that'll ship right to your door. Check them out, use the Googles, and be sure to mark down pseudo when you sign up. It helps me, it helps you, it helps them. Win-win-win.
Win-win.
Alright, so starting off with gear, my pack and my chest rig. So I started down this path at the end of 2024, but by the beginning of 2025, I feel like I have perfected it. This is by far the most comfortable setup I have for day trips where you might need to carry a moderate amount of weight, something like 400 rounds of ammo with some water and snacks, toolkit, etc. And still have some room left over for things like stowing maybe a whoopee or a poncho. For the clips, I started off using these repair buckles. Do not use these repair buckles. Instead, use this type of repair buckle here, which has this tension bar. The chest rig will definitely rip out this style of repair buckle here that has a pass-through. You only want to use these locking type of repair buckles, which there is a link for these in the description. They're a little more expensive, but they are worth it. It works on several different setups, including this smaller 10-liter Velocity pack and my larger Mystery Ranch ruck. However, it is by far the most comfortable on this LBT version 2 day pack. The straps are padded and perfectly spaced to accept this small Spiritus Systems chest rig. Now, what makes this such a comfortable setup? Well, in the past, I've always been partial to kind of having the pack separated from the chest rig, as I like to take off the pack and use it to shoot off of, or to be able to self-resupply without having to take off the chest rig as well.
Hit!
But what I have found is for high output activity, like what is demanded from competing in this style of shooting sports, the straps that go underneath your arms to stabilize the top of the chest rig are very constricting, especially when you overlap those straps with more straps from a backpack. It's just kind of a mess. There are some other solutions on the market, such as this Haley Strategic chest rig and pack combo, that do remove those straps, but the problem I have with those is if you do need to ditch the chest rig, you have to completely rework the entire pack to use it as just a regular backpack. Whereas with this setup, the pack is set up as it normally is set up, and the chest rig is simply hanging off of the pack, making it for an easy on-the-trail reconfiguration with your setup. Like here, I drop the chest rig and I stow it in the pack so that I can either lay flatter and prone or get over some sort of awkward obstacle like this vertical wall.
Nice.
Also, when the chest rig is just kind of hanging from your pack, you don't need to cinch it down super hard on the back strap to keep it stable. The pack keeps it stable. You can actually have the chest rig fairly loose, and it will stay stable even in a full sprint because the pack itself is the one keeping the chest rig where it needs to be.
Hip! Hip!
With a somewhat loose chest rig just kind of hanging, this makes for very easy and natural breathing, which is very important when you're hours into an event and dozens of miles into the backcountry. Now, I did have the opportunity to run just a chest rig only at a carbine only event. For this event, I switched over to the Lunar Concepts harness from Wiseman Company, which has a very wide back panel that keeps the chest rig very stable without having to pull all those straps super tight. This was an extremely comfortable setup. I wore this setup for over 7 hours in the hot Texas May heat across nearly 20 miles of movement, and it worked out very well.
You going? Yes, sir.
But how did I get away with just running a chest rig if I had 20 miles of movement and shooting? Well, the rest of my kit was on an e-mountain bike for what was probably the world's first bike and gun event. I know, there are some similar events out there with like 22 long rifles and BB guns and stuff, but I think this event was probably the first event to have competitors moving across this distance with a centerfire long gun engaging targets out to 700 yards. It's very different, it's very unique, and extremely challenging.
Low.
I'm not going to dive too deep into my e-mountain bike setup for this event. There's a whole video out there for it. Be sure to check out that specific after action video after this one's done.
Low. Low left. Hit.
It was without a doubt my favorite event for the entire year, but more on this later. I'll end up ranking the events, at least the top 5 later on in this video. But for now, let's talk about optics. Overall, my day optic setup remained the same as it was in 2024. It is a primary arms 2-10 with a Delta Point Pro on top with the Raptor BDC reticle. The BDC is a very effective reticle choice for this style of shooting, where fast initial engagement and follow-ups are acceptable. None of these events that I shot had a missed shot penalty. And having a simple setup like this really lets you quickly run through the estimated range of engagement, which is very nice.
Camouflage. 1, 2.
The simplistic nature of a BDC is great when you're completely exhausted, worn out, and tired from fighting the sun, the hills, the wind, and whatever other obstacles that stood in your way just to get to the stage that you're currently shooting. It requires almost no brain power to remember your holds. The BDC is something that gets dismissed by many shooters. And when you're fresh, you're at the flat bay or a rifle bench, then there are definitely far better choices out there for reticles than the BDC. But don't overlook the effectiveness of this simple design of the BDC, especially when you are tasked with doing many other things besides just focusing on shooting. The impact on your mental abilities when you are fatigued are dramatic, and having to suddenly recall your dope chart off the top of your head or read a table of numbers, it could inhibit your performance. Yes, a printed out dope chart can mitigate some of that, but again, none of these targets are at known distances. And at these competitions, there really isn't time to laze all your targets and get the perfect dope dialed in. No, a BDC is not a precision reticle. I don't think anyone out there is really saying that. It is, though, however, an acceptably accurate reticle. So, what is accuracy versus precision if you don't know? Well, in simple terms, accuracy is hitting what you're aiming at. And in this case, it's a big silhouette target.
Hit. Hit. Shit, big gun.
Precision is how consistent are your impacts, or tight groups. In other shooting competitions, you could explain this pretty easy as Charlies versus Alphas. In the comps that I shot in 2025, an impact was an impact. There were no alphas, there were no Charlies. You either made an impact or you missed. If you are going for like all alphas, then a BDC isn't it. And of course, if at this distance you're trying to pull off a hit on like a small 1 mm away target, then a BDC is probably a pretty poor choice.
Head back.
But again, there was no difference for the scoring for alphas or Charlies at these events. This is not a PRS event, it's not USPSA. This is more akin to like a combat carbine setup. There are no penalties for misses. There's no real round accountability at these events. You're just trying to neutralize the targets under par time. The faster, the better. Now, I did pick up a new night optic to reconfigure my night rifle. This is a DNT optic that literally has all the tech under the sun in it. It has thermals, has a digital day-night camera, it has a laser rangefinder, a ballistic computer, and a very bright IR illuminator. This made night shooting very easy, and I had noticeably less missed shots. And the shots that I did miss, I knew why. Usually coming down to not having like a proper shooting position, or I pulled the shot. Oftentimes when you shoot under nods, whether the targets are illuminated or you're illuminating them with your IR, you just kind of are plugging away with almost no feedback as to your missed shots. But through the DNT optic, it was just like shooting in daylight. Oftentimes you know as you pull the trigger if you're going to get an impact or not, or at least I do, within reason, you know, like say targets inside of 300 yards. It's instinctual. When you shoot enough within reason, you will know as you squeeze off that round if that was a good shot or not. However, I've never really felt this way at night. Anything past 100 yards in the dark, under nods with a laser is a bit of a guessing game. Posture, the holds, everything is very different, and in the dark, there's zero feedback on rounds impacted. So you just kind of shoot into the void until the target flashes or the RO calls a hit. This is not the case though with the DNT optic. Shooting at night with DNT just felt like the same thing as shooting in the daytime. And to top it off, this optic works pretty well in the daylight as well. That integrated laser rangefinder in this optic is definitely a contender to be my full-time day optic. All of these features do make for a fairly heavy and cumbersome optic though.
There it is, there it is.
Directly under the sun.
Yep. I'm not
57-68. Those last two were hits, right?
I don't think so. I don't think I got any hits.
I couldn't tell. Well, you can always check the footage too.
You did?
It sounded like the last two were hits, right?
Keep an eye out. I do have a video coming up where I shot a full day course and used the laser rangefinder at almost every stage.
Second one? No splash.
Another new piece of kit I started this year off with is a Surefire RC2. I shot every event this year suppressed, and honestly I should have done this earlier. The weight, negligible. No longer eating your dust while shooting prone, way worth it. I shoot prone a lot, pretty much every chance I can get, vegetation allowing. And sometimes I just shoot straight through the grass and the trees as well.
Hit! 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 Keep going. That's the wrong one. Keep going. You're good. Up top now. That was my other timer. Hit!
But if you didn't know, Texas is usually a pretty dusty place. In the years past, I would just kind of eat the dust, literally, and sometimes get dust into my sweaty eyes, which was something of a problem. Last year I had several occasions where the dust actually messed up my contact lenses, which could have been a pretty big issue considering if I had to take my contacts out, I'm miles back into the woods, pretty much no help available, and stumbling my way through a blurry course is really not something I want to do. Side note, I do bring extra prescription lenses now just for this scenario.
Hit! 60-80. Yeah, 60.80.
I'm shooting suppressed from here on out. There's really no reason not to. It also makes the rifle just much more pleasant to shoot. And also, probably the biggest pro of a suppressor is being nice to the people around you. Team shooting. If you're shooting with a buddy, y'all should both be running suppressors. While I didn't get a lot of team shooting in this year, the team shooting that I have done in the past with buddies running aggressive muzzle brakes has seriously impacted my shooting when shooting next to them.
You got one target on the left side, you missed. I missed?
Getting high. Hit, hit! Hit, hit! 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 Reset.
So uncivilized.
I find myself usually having to break my shots in between their shots just because of the concussion, which is literally throwing me off the target. This is not really much of a problem if you're on the flat bay and you're just ammo dumping into trash or paper targets at 50 yards, but when you're engaging a target at 300 yards or past, even the slightest impacts can throw you off, including your buddy's muzzle brake. So be cool, run a suppressor. The range officers will also appreciate it.
Impact! 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 Impact!
Hit!
Impact! 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 Impact!
You guys get the big one?
Big one.
Impact!
Time!
All right, there you go. Nice. Synchronized. Sexy.
That was
All right,
nice.
drop magazine.
This was also the year of a sun shirt, and for a lot of you, this is probably a duh moment. This year, I wore a hooded sun shirt for every single event. Early in 2024, I made a huge mistake of not having proper sun protection as the weather changed. I was way out in West Texas for the longest single day event that I've ever shot, and when I stepped off, it was pretty cool out, so I just had on a lightweight wind shirt. As it warmed up, I ended up having to ditch that wind shirt, and all I had on was a short sleeve shirt. It was a bad idea. I didn't even bring sunscreen, and the sun just really beat me down for that event, and I used the rest of the year experimenting with different setups, eventually landing on this really basic Amazon hooded sun shirt. I don't even wear hats anymore. The hood is perfect. It's not constricting, and it actually catches the wind and cools you off in your back as well. Hats trap too much heat, and they tend to cause a little bit of a pressure headache for me when they're worn too long with intense activity. The hood though, it just rests on your head like a light little pillow. When paired with a sweatband, I think this is truly one of the greatest setups for this type of activity. The jungle booting like the Plat Attack is great too, but not while I'm doing long, fast, and sustained movements in intense heat. Personally, I hate putting ear pro over a boonie, but over the sun shirt, it's no problem. The only downside here really is that the hood can sometimes interfere with your rifle or your rifle sling, depending on what you're doing. That's why sometimes you'll see me with my hood on and my ear pro over it to keep the hood nice and secure. Also, sometimes it's just to keep the sun off of my neck while I'm shooting, or to stop brass from going down my shirt from buddy. Now, at the end of the year, I did end up actually comboing up both the sun shirt and a boonie, but this involved some rucking in the desert, which was a slower pace, but a more sustained pace, and it was just too intense. The landscape was barren, there was not a single bit of shade, but we weren't sprinting or anything like that. It was fairly moderate paced ruck through some extremely rough and barren environment. So in that case, the hoodie plus the boonie was really great. You got total sun protection and you got some cooling effects of that wide hood capturing the breeze. I didn't use any sunscreen at this event, and I got no sunburns either. So it was 100% sun exposure for the whole day, and I was good to go. If you're interested, check out the link in the description. Moving on to the impact of nutrition and rest, and while this really isn't a new lesson for me in 2025, I did feel like it was really worth mentioning, especially as all of us are getting older, myself included. The impact of proper nutrition and rest just can't be understated, especially pre-hydration. Years ago, I used to not pre-hydrate at all, and I'd pay the price. Headaches would set in pretty quick, an hour or two into long, hot events. Now with not only proper hydration 24 hours in advance, but the day of, and limiting the sun exposure, it's fixed pretty much every issue I've ever had with the sun. And I have pretty much started to religiously pre-hydrate. 24 hours in advance, I'll take at least one liquid IV, and I think this has really made the biggest impact. I did a bunch of hot weather events this year, including 3 in the Texas summer heat. I never once experienced the early symptoms of heat exhaustion. In fact, on one of the events, I wore a helmet for more than 7 hours straight in the blistering sun, and other than being physically and mentally spent, I was fine. No headaches, no nausea, nothing.
Time. Show clear. I know you're clear, but you gotta show me.
Help me up.
I'll help you up. I'm gonna stand on your head. Good job, man. That bike kicking your butt, man?
Going from 1
Gotcha.
to 2
Oh, yeah.
up that hill.
Yep. I did it too. It sucked.
Dude, I'm pushing a 70-pound bike. And
Mine's only like 30 and it hurt.
Also, meals and snacks. I always carry some form of snacks with me at these events, and as soon as you start feeling low or tired, hit some sugar. These waffles are my favorite, but the caffeinated honey hits really good too. Quick note on rest, consistency of proper sleep is king of energy production and endurance. If your sleep schedule is all over the place, you'll want to tighten that up. That being said, almost all of these events that I went to this year were overnighters. Some of them were multi-night affairs, and I like to camp. That also means that most of the time I'm not very well slept before one of these events starts. I can always feel it on competition day about 4 miles in. Oh yeah, I slept like shit last night. Seriously, as you age, sleep is the ultimate energy hack. Changes to my pre-comp routine. First and foremost, I have a new ammo policy. This year finally brought in a couple of new malfunctions. First, I had a Glock 19 magazine sneak its way into my kit, and by sneak, what I mean is on my way out the door, I grabbed an extra pistol mag that I had laying around at the ready and I threw it in my kit. Glancing at it, it looked like a Glock 17 mag, but instead it was a short little Glock 19 mag. This lesson at the competition is a stark reminder that you should standardize your kit, as this could have been a very serious screw up at a self-defense scenario, and there's really no reason why I should keep spare Glock 19 mags laying around.
Whoopsies.
Also, this year finally brought my Glock 17 its first malfunctions. Lots of them too, and to make it worse, it was at night. I've been running this Glock 17 for about 3 years now in every single competition, and it has run flawlessly, not a single malfunction, until August, when I had a pistol malfunction at every single stage. But fear not, it was not the Glock. This is not my limit of a Glock 34. Instead, this was actually just my carelessness in running ammo that I had used at a prior event where it got fully submerged in a nasty swamp. I didn't do anything to that ammo after that water crossing. Instead, I just left it in the mags and I used it at the very next comp the following month, and boy did I pay a price. A proper clean of the Glock 17 itself and switching back to factory fresh PMC 124 bronze had my pistol back to running flawlessly. Thankfully too, I thought I was going to have to switch out to a P320.
Ooh, yeah.
So, new procedure going forward is anytime I have to cross water or I get rained on endlessly, the ammo from that event is going to get bagged and relegated to range day ammo. It will not join me at my next comp.
Let's go.
I also had a series of rifle malfunctions at one event, which was really just a combo effect of being sweaty, rolling around in the sand, but also using some really old PMags that I had. These things are pretty beat up. They were like 15 years old, and for some reason I loaded them up for this event. And upon closer inspection, some of them had cracked lips. Those have been discarded now. They've been sent to the recycling machine with a bunch of old milk cartons.
Hit! 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 Hit, ceasefire. Good job. 144, 84.
What is going on?
Sorry about that. The other timer, for whatever, somehow started.
So moving on to my top 3 favorite event. This year was so chock full of amazing events that it's pretty difficult to reduce this list down to just 3. And by no means is this a negative reflection on all the other events that I got to shoot this year that didn't make it into the top 3. Every event I shot was great in its own way. There was not a single event this year that I didn't like. And overall, this year represented a pretty dramatic rise in the overall difficulty of run and gun events as a whole. But like I had mentioned earlier, the e-mountain bike shooting comp was really my favorite. This was the Mystery Ops Memorial event. It took place on Memorial Day out in the Mesquite Scrub Hills of San Angelo. And not only was it the most unique event that I have ever shot to date, it was the most challenging, with nearly 20 miles of course distance and an insane number of shooting stages, 24 in total. It is a logistical miracle that Mystery Ops was even able to pull this off. There were like 4 or 5 different divisions total. It was insane. Second on my list was the OED event in New Mexico. This was something of a bucket list item for me, to get to hike and shoot in the Rocky Mountains.
I know you're faster than that. Let's go, Pseudo.
Initially, I was a bit skeptical of the venue choice. It was hosted at the NRA's Whittington Center, and my personal bias against anything associated with the NRA almost made me pass on this event, but boy was I wrong. This is an incredible venue, and if I lived anywhere close to this venue, I would be out there all the time. Huge shout out to the NRA for letting OED run their usual cross-country style event and not having us be confined to some flat bay or to have to run without rifles or some other FUD nonsense that I could just not even think of.
Hit! No, just one hit. Pistol. One hit. Hit! All right.
And while the scoring issues at this event did cast a somewhat of a negative shadow, the course itself and the stages were just awesome. The course path was pretty much perfect, and the shooting stages leveraged all the natural Rocky Mountain environment that I could ever imagine. To me, there's something just amazing about getting to hike in the Rocky Mountain pines. Now for number 3, it's difficult really for me to say which event should be here, because there are so many other events that I can think of that could also place here. But for posterity's sake, I'm gonna have to put Waco Tactical Fitness in Crawford, Texas at number 3. Just because this was the last year, man. It's gone, it's not coming back. This venue is AFK. And while the match director for the Waco Tactical Fitness group has already secured another venue, which I'm sure is gonna be awesome, the Crawford venue is really just one of a kind. All the obstacles, the river, the zip line, and the consistent year-over-year course that I've been shooting for over 4 years, it'll be sorely missed by me. This was the bar by which I measured my year-over-year progress. They were at this venue for over a decade, and I know I'm not the only one who's going to miss this wild and difficult course. So here's to you, Waco Tactical Fitness at Crawford, and all the lessons you've handed out in the form of bruises and blood over the years. Some honorable mentions here. 1, the vibes at the Mystery Ops Jade Helm Survivor Scramble course were just stunning. The misty hills being lit on fire by the rising sun was simply amazing. And then the last event of this year, one that I have not yet made a video for. It was an overnight run and gun event. This is an event that I have pitched to multiple match directors, and Mystery Ops came in strong with a desert land nav challenge and a shooting comp that was really fantastic, even if it was in the inhospitable and barren wasteland of the West Texas desert. Keep an eye out for this after action report from this event sometime early next year. When I have an event coming up, I often think about what could I possibly say in an after action report that I have not already said. And I usually feel like I have already said everything there is to be said about shooting in the woods. But then after I finish one of these events, it just opens up a whole new bottle of lessons. That's my favorite part about these events, to be honest, is how unique each one of them are. Even the recurring events that return to the same venue, they serve up new lessons. And shout out to all the match directors out there that are able to take the same venue and somehow craft new courses and new shooting stages each year. For me, it's the combo of the gear, the weather, the course conditions, and the battle against all of those variables that keep this channel going and keep me interested. It's never the same out there. It's always a challenge, and no matter how much I train during the week or tighten up my kit, I'm constantly reminded that you can never let off the gas. You have to continually sharpen all of your skill sets just to maintain. To make progress, you have to do something that beats you into the dirt. And after you dust yourself off and pick yourself back up, you'll be left with the lessons that very few adults get. Lessons in self-introspection. Where did I go wrong? What could I have done better? If you put yourself in that situation often, you will grow faster and stronger than the crowd. So get out there in the heat with wet boots and 30 pounds of extra equipment. You'll find yourself, and you might even find your faith. So here's to 2026 and the difficult adventure that lies ahead, and to rising to meet that challenge. Thanks for watching. As always, run, lift, and shoot. I'll see you next year on the trail.